SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Never take your heart health for granted. For just $99, you can get a complete screening and know your risks. Call 601-249-5198 to schedule your Happy Healthy Heart screening at Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Hey, good morning. Welcome in. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us to start your day, to start your week. Hopefully a week that for many of you across the state of Mississippi feels a whole lot more like a normal week. And when I say normal, I know that every week is a little bit different and there are a little bit different things going, but there are certain times of the year where you expect your kids to be in school and you expect to just go to work with no issue and you expect to be able to walk out of your house without, I don't know, your first step being a doozy and you end up on your hiney on the concrete because you slipped on ice. And you expect not to have to run the chainsaw every day and haul limbs and all of those things. And so that's what we mean when we say normal. Maybe you can just get back to it. But maybe not. We'll see. Love to hear from you on the C Spire text line. That number is always open to you. I will tell you that it is a little harder for us to go back and find messages outside the time that we are on the air, but it's still a good way to communicate. 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C Spire, online at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. Show's brought to you every day by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Lance Tolbert, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Well, I can tell that it's not back to normal quite yet for you. You're
No.
Studio Oxford, and how was the weekend, my friend?
The weekend was good. I had to make the run to Nashville. Had TV assignment for Ole Miss and Vanderbilt on Saturday night. So left about lunchtime on Friday, or middle of the afternoon on Friday. My boy went with me. Obi went along for the ride, and so we got some good quality time there. And basketball game Saturday night, and back home about noon yesterday, and still no power for us.
Wow.
Think we're getting closer. I think everything I've heard is the next couple of days is the most likely scenario, but we're now at eight days without.
Yeah, they're down to around 8,000 to 9,000 without power in Lafayette, it looks like, at this point.
Yeah. I think Northeast Power, that may be the one that you're looking at, is at, I looked at it right before I went to bed last night. Maybe right at 10,000, just a hair underneath it, in terms of customers that are affected by the outage. And the city is down to about 100 at this point. So the folks that are on city utilities, Oxford utilities, not a ton of those, but the ones that are still out, it may take a little while because of kind of the complicated nature of it. We'll get into all of that coming up. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was more laid back than what you guys are dealing with, I can assure you so. Yeah. Nothing to really report on other than just cold weather, and it'll warm up a little today, but laid back, worked, and just thinking of all you guys that are still dealing with all these issues, you know.
You don't have to just think about it, Lance.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I got plenty of branches you can help me haul and stack up. And
dude, if I could get up there on a Sunday and back, I'd be happy to. I got that one day off that kind of limits the ability to get away from the homestead a bit. But, I would absolutely love to be helping, man. And I know there's plenty that needs to be done.
There's no doubt about that.
How did the ride go? Oxford to Nashville's not like just around the corner. So what did you and the boy do for, 6-7 hours? Chaw the fat, talk football?
No, it's not that long. It's about 4 hours.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. Okay. That's not
roads were great. Roads were great. I was a little concerned about that going up. No issues whatsoever. No issues coming back. Nashville, I got some pretty significant damage there as well. A lot of people still without power in Nashville, but campus was open and had a pretty good ball game. And yeah, man, it was good.
Did you take chainsaws just in case?
I did not, and I have in the past. In the past, I've done that. I've gone ahead and thrown a chainsaw in the back of the truck and made sure I had gas and bar oil, and I did pack some extra layers just in the event that something went sideways, and kind of had those tucked away in the toolbox. Didn't want us to get stuck on the side of the road and just kind of shivering, but it didn't have any issue. Thankful for that. And to your point, it is going to be warmer today.
It is.
Going to be warmer tomorrow. Looks like Wednesday and Thursday may drop back down a little bit. And then we've got a stretch all the way into the middle of February where it looks like 50s and 60s, may touch some 70s along the way. Tupelo today, you've got sunny skies and a high near 55 degrees. The wind that you do have, good news, will be out of the south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Gluckstadt, just north of Jackson, 61 degrees and sunshine today with winds out of the southwest at 5 to 10. And somebody in Gluckstadt's going to sneak out on a golf course somewhere today.
His name's probably Gerard.
It's possible. Waynesboro, you got sunny skies with a high around 60. Southwest winds light and breezy, and about the same for Pass Christian. Mainly sunny, 56 degrees with a breeze out of the southwest. Not too bad. George Halas was born on this day in 1895, the professional Hall of Fame football coach. How about this? Halas won NFL championships in 19, 21, 32, 33, 40, 41, 43, 46, and 63.
What happened to the 50s? Yeah.
He just took a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wanted to give somebody else a chance.
Somebody's got to get a shot, huh?
He was the NFL Coach of the Year in both 1963 and 1965 with the Chicago Bears, and became an executive and later the owner. George Halas owned the Chicago Bears from 1921 until 1983. He was born in Chicago, Chicago's guy. Farrah Fawcett, born on this day in 1947. She was one of Charlie's Angels.
No doubt.
Born in Corpus Christi, Texas. Way down in South Texas. Super South Texas.
Yeah, that's about as far as it goes.
Mm-hmm. Shakira is 49. The Colombian pop singer, Waka Waka, among other things, was born in Barranquilla, Colombia.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did a great job on that.
I don't know that I rolled the L's quite as much as I wanted to. Barranquilla.
Excellent elocution this morning.
On this day in 1887, for the very first time, we had Groundhog Day. It was observed at Gobbler's Knob, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and ever since, we have been craning our necks and tuning our televisions to see if that little furry rodent, Punxsutawney Phil, when he emerges from his den, his cave, his hole, early in the morning, and looks around, does he see his shadow? As the legend goes, if he does see his shadow, meaning that it is a sunny morning, then you're going to have 6 more weeks of winter. If you happen to have a cloudy day where no shadow is seen by that little rascally rodent, spring is on the way. Last year, that little punk Phil predicted that there were going to be 6 more weeks of winter, and guess what? He was wrong. You little jerk. I heard America in the Morning talking about this before we came on. I have not heard exactly yet what old Punxsutawney Phil saw when he emerged from the cave.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Have you seen an official?
No, I haven't. I forgot it was even today, or was it yesterday or today?
No, it's today.
Yeah.
February 2nd, Groundhog Day.
I wonder how much money is getting laid out on that, the predictions.
I don't know. There is a problem with the whole thing. It's still dark when he comes out.
Yeah. It's kind of
There's
a setup.
no shadow to see or be seen. But, Richard, you're messing with a good story, so I apologize for that.
Yes, it goes back away, 1887. Mm-hmm. Tradition there. It's kind of a big party now, I think.
Richard, no generator at the homestead. That on the C Spire text line. Yes, have a generator. Do not have it tied into my office. We're focused on lights and a little bit of heat, and it's all right. Going to be back in the home office before long, hopefully. Mornings with Richard Cross, just getting started with you. Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us.
Load my Hayden Jackson in there.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. For those of you out on the road this morning, wherever you're headed, be safe. Hope you have a great day. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. I want to zip through a few of these. Spring is coming, and there's nothing that fat little rodent can do to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I am with you. Interesting question here. Is Tate Reeves going to declare a state of emergency so that people can recoup all the money they had to spend on gas, propane, and replace the food that's spoiled in the refrigerator? Or do you have to be from Somalia to get that? Your phrasing there is interesting. We're actually going to talk a little bit more about this in the 7 o'clock hour. Let me try and give you a quick answer as best I can. And some of it has to do with specific wording and phrasing. You asked the question, is Tate Reeves going to declare a state of emergency? He actually did that before the winter storm rolled in. He and governors from a number of southern states declared a state of emergency. That state of emergency was accepted by the president, and the White House signed that. That is not the same thing as a declaration or request for declaration of a major disaster. And at this time, a major disaster declaration has neither been signed nor submitted by the governor to the White House, to FEMA, to whomever. Ultimately, it has to be accepted and signed by the President of the United States. So, why is that, you might ask? Haven't other states done that? Louisiana has not. Tennessee has asked for an accelerated emergency disaster declaration. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Mississippi has not yet. To request a major disaster declaration, I am told that there's a lot that's involved with that, including some very specific numbers on damages, on people affected, on how long they were affected, on power outages. It's not something that you just rubber stamp and send it in and the president signs it and says, sure. You may remember that following the Tylertown tornado in 2025, it was a really, really long time before that major disaster declaration came in. That does, to your question, open up the opportunity for reimbursement, compensation for money that has been spent. But it is not nearly as good a deal as if you are, I don't know, the owner of the Quality Learning Center. You're going to get a whole lot more money with a whole lot fewer strings attached if you run the Quality Learning Center in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities area. They're just going to write you a check for a couple $1 million and nobody's going to check on you. Not really the way it works. It'll be interesting to see what programs are put in place for disaster relief. If there is individual assistance or if it is more municipally based assistance. I know IAF is one of the terms for individual assistance, and I can't remember if it's MAF or there's a second pot of money. The first pot of money, though, is for municipalities dealing with cleanup and all of the things that go, some of the expenses that they had related to it. The second pot of money is more for individuals. And I hope you're documenting everything along the way. I don't know how you document buying fuel for generators with cash because a gas station would only take cash. Because they were opening and they had enough power, but they didn't have internet, and so their credit card machines weren't working or pay at the pump wasn't working. So I don't know. But hopefully all of that will be in place for you going forward. Good message. Good question. Let's see here. This was good. Still no power here in Panola County. The Lord has blessed us with warmth, and we're just thankful for what we do have. My wife's grandmother, has been staying with us because her house ran out of propane, and her stories from growing up in the 1940s sure have put things in perspective. The power outage is just another Monday for her. For anyone that grew up in a more difficult time, especially those who are still with us that perhaps grew up in the Great Depression, you've been through it. If you were fortunate enough to have somebody in your life that lived through that time and they are still lucid enough to remember and share stories with you about that, please ask them questions and listen to what they have to say. It is just remarkably fascinating what so many people went through during that period of their lives, and also what they remember from that period of their lives.
A lot of community was brought out. I remember and listening to stories. My grandmother, or my mama, I should say, and Papa, they were farming folk.
Yeah,
and it hit hard. But when you have community, much like what we're seeing today, when you have friends and family and Mississippians with outreach, it was always a solution there. But the stories of the hog cookings and everybody getting together a couple times and cooking a hog, and it was just people left and right would show up, and the feel of community. That was just something as a kid always really admired. It was no matter how difficult it was, you had no air conditioning and no indoor plumbing and all that, but yet at the end of the day, you made it just fine.
Yeah,
you had family, you had friends, you had babies, you moved on.
Lance, I've kind of made mental commitment to do a better job talking to and visiting with my neighbors on the backside of this. Because I've spent more time talking to and visiting with neighbors over the last 8 days than I have in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like the person directly across the street from you or directly beside you. I did a pretty decent job of staying in touch with them. But I'm talking about like kind of the bigger part of our neighborhood. There are a lot of great people.
Man, they'll have you on the HOA in no time flat.
We do not have one, and I will fight to the death for anybody that wants one. Never. Never, never, never. Never. This message from Sid. Thanks to all the groups that have shown up in Oxford and Lafayette County. And I'll actually spread that out beyond Oxford and Lafayette County. Sid didn't do this, but I will. Tate County, Marshall County, Tippah County, Tishomingo County, Coahoma County, Washington, Issaquena, Sharkey. I'm sure I'm missing a few. Union, Pontotoc. Sorry, I'm working my way through the county map in my head. Thinking back to Mr. Sharp's Mississippi Studies class in ninth grade. Anyway, Sid says thanks to everybody that has shown up. He says 8 Days of Hope showed up at my daughter's home. Worked for about 4 hours yesterday. Truly a blessing. People helping people. A lot of organizations that have done that. United Cajun Navy's been here since almost the beginning. Samaritan's Purse set up and got started on Friday. 8 Days of Hope. I think 8 Days of Hope is basing their operation out of North Oxford Baptist Church. Samaritan's Purse is basing their operation at Christ Presbyterian Church. I'm not sure where the Cajun Navy is set up. But, man, people have been doing a phenomenal job helping each other. And we are here to celebrate it and applaud it. Today in 1940, Frank Sinatra performed at the Lyric Theater in Indianapolis, his first as a featured singer with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. 1952, B.B. King's 3 O'Clock Blues hit number 1 on the Billboard charts. Became his first national hit. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From thesebro.com.
What are we going to do? Rise and shine with information and insight.
Check it out. Check it out.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Is there a theme that I've missed with Toto this morning? Yeah. We get that going to the break and coming back, too?
Yeah, well, that's just to please our Somali audience out there. I'm sure we have.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well done.
They may be eating a groundhog right now somewhere, so the waves are crashing on the banks of Somalia. So many fond memories of my home place. I don't want to go back. I'm happy to take your money, though, Richard. Thanks for your tax dollars.
You're welcome. You want to check with 1 comma or 2?
I'd like just a lot of zeros on the check, if you don't mind. As you pay your taxes this year, just earmark it Somalia Rescue Fund.
Ilan Omar,
please, yes. Ask her if she will.
May I make it directly to you?
Yeah, just have her take the turban off. That's the only prerequisite to receive the funds.
I'm a little off on my schedule this morning. We should have already talked about some news headlines, be getting into a sports update, and that's okay. I wanted to read some of your messages. Some really good ones. And I'm going to continue to do that. I found both of these things interesting, though. Today in 1970, LSU's Pete Maravich, you remember Pistol Pete, became the first ever to score 3,000 points in college basketball. He finished his career in 3 years with 3,667 points. Pistol Pete stands alone. He averaged at least 43 points per game in all 3 years in which he played on the varsity team. What makes his scoring total even more ridiculous is the fact that he had to play on a freshman team his first year at LSU. There was no shot clock, and there was no three-point line. Also remarkable, LSU never made the NCAA tournament while Maravich was on the team. As a sophomore in the 1967-68 season, he averaged 43.8 points per game. 68-69 the next year, 44.2, and in his senior season, which wrapped up in, I guess, March of 1970, 44.5 points per game for Pistol Pete.
That dude was scoring at a water break.
He could fill it up.
Man, he was throwing it up from the bench.
Point a minute, man. 40-minute game, over a point a minute.
I've watched a few of the clips of the old times. You know, no three-point line. I mean, it's amazing that he scored that much on average.
Yeah.
I mean, through his career without a three-point line. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Also of interest, on this day in 1992, the Internal Revenue Service and Brother Willie Nelson came to an agreement on a settlement of his tax bill. A settlement that ended at $9 million out of the $16.7 million that he owed. I don't know if there is any truth to the rumor that the person negotiating and who knocked $7.7 million off of the tax bill walked away humming the tune to "I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again."
Yeah, probably. Wesley Snipes needed to hire him. Yeah.
I'll never smoke weed with Willie again. Party all. All right. Let's go news headlines for you. Winter Storm Fern has claimed more lives. In a Sunday afternoon update, Governor Tate Reeves confirmed that the storm-related death count in Mississippi has now climbed to 23. Up a couple from Saturday afternoon's report. The most recent losses of life occurred in Panola County. The identities not being released at this time. Utility crews continue to make progress in restoring power where widespread outages occurred. At its height, or peak, the number of people without power in Mississippi was just over 180,000. That number is now down to under 56,000. The most outages at this point being seen in Lafayette County at about 10,000 residents affected. Panola County at about 8,800. Tippah County at about 7,000. Tishomingo with about 6,000. That's people remaining still without power. 14 counties as of yesterday still reporting ice. And by the way, if you're still reporting ice at this point, there is a chance that that ice is super slick. I felt like I almost fell more yesterday than at any point in all this deal. So just be careful still. Had a friend from a friend, Lance, that's an orthopedic surgeon. He's on his way right now. He said, "I'm headed in to take care of winter storm related injuries." Yeah,
I mean, if you still got ice right now, you might as well just name it and call it a pet, because that thing may not be going anywhere. That's what, 8 days in.
There is a stretch of my driveway, kind of down at the bottom by the road, that's heavily shaded.
Mm-hmm.
I bet it's from the road up maybe 20 feet, and it's still a sheet.
Man.
And it's like a glaze on top of it.
Yeah, you don't want to be walking on that stuff. No, you take out the old baseball spikes from junior high school.
Would not be a bad idea, or just ice skates. Yeah,
I'd break my neck on ice skates.
So you have 14 counties that still are reporting ice. State is continuing to work to get assistance to those in need. According to the governor, the state is still deploying requests. So far, coming up on 300,000 bottles of water, over 93,000 meals, almost 5,000 blankets, 2,000 cots, and 4,300 tarps have been divvied out across the state. 650 members of the Mississippi National Guard have been deployed. MDWFP assisting with welfare checks and emergency calls in Alcorn and Tippah counties. Other agencies involved: Mississippi Emergency Management, that is MEMA, the Department of Public Safety, the Department of Transportation, the State Department of Health, the Mississippi Forestry Commission, FEMA, also on the ground after sending almost $4 million in rapid emergency funding for the purchase and implementation of generators, debris removal, and other urgent needs. I mentioned a couple of the organizations earlier. Some more comprehensive list that came from the governor. 8 Days of Hope, Salvation Army, the American Red Cross, Samaritan's Purse, Cajun Navy, Mississippi Baptist Disaster Relief Group, Mercy Chefs. Somebody mentioned Mercy Chefs on the C Spire text line just a moment ago in Potts Camp. World Central Kitchen, God's Pit Crew, Christ in Action, Team Rubicon, Oak Park Church out of Mobile, Baby to Baby, the Mississippi Urban League, Pine Lake Church, Operation Barbecue, and others. Good work, all who are involved. Thank you. Like, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. And to all of you that are not affiliated with any of these organizations, that have just gotten up in the morning with the idea of, hey, somebody tell me what I can do to help, because there's a lot of that. Drag racers may soon have to face even higher consequences for driving erratically in Mississippi. House Bill 1272, authored by Representative Shawnee Yates, an independent from Jackson, would allow law enforcement in municipalities and counties with populations of 25,000 or more to confiscate the vehicles of those convicted of drag racing. Per the legislation, drag racing described as the operation of two or more vehicles from a point side by side at accelerating speeds in a competitive attempt to outpace each other. That definition checks out. House Bill 1272 has the backing of law enforcement officials in Mississippi. It aims to drastically reduce drag racing, especially on major highways and interstates that are heavily trafficked. Bill was approved by the House Judiciary A committees on Thursday and now going to be considered by the full chamber. Pass it! Pass it! If you have been on the interstate, and forgive me if I am excluding areas where this happens on the regular, Hinds County, Madison County, DeSoto County are the three worst that I have seen or witnessed. Maybe it happens on the coast. Maybe it happens around Hattiesburg. I don't know. Brother, when a load of Mustangs or Corvettes or crotch rockets comes flying past you so fast you nearly get whiplash trying to see it, man, it's a scary deal.
This happens around here all the time.
All the time. If you can catch them and pull them over, take those cars. I am all for it. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
Hey, how's it going, man?
The news you need.
Every 10, 15 minutes, there's something.
The talk you love.
They really talk about the things that matter. I'm into all that stuff.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Rooted in our community. Your Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. Powerball, got a drawing coming up tonight, $65 million. Estimated cash value just shy of 30. Saturday night's numbers 2, 8, 14, 40, 63. The Powerball was 23. MJ. Mega Million's pretty good size for tomorrow night. $323 million in the estimated jackpot. $146 million almost the cash value. Friday's numbers were 11, 34, 36, 43, 63 with a mega ball of 13. Kind of a quiet week last week at the Lottery Claims Office. They paid out about $844,000, while retailers paid out about $4.5 million all across the state of Mississippi. A Guntown man won $50,000 on a ticket from Baldwin Discount Tobacco. That was a $20 scratch-off, a colossal cash winner. So congratulations, fella. That is your Mississippi Lottery update. Find them online at mslottery.com for all the information about the Mississippi Lottery. And don't forget to get your tickets at your local Mississippi Lottery retailers. Basketball over the weekend in the SEC, not kind to the Bulldogs, not kind to the Rebels. Mississippi State went on the road to Missouri, and the Bulldogs dropped one by 5. 84-79 was the final. Mississippi State trailed by 7 at the half, down 42-35. Bulldogs outscored Missouri 44-42 in the second half, but not enough to make up that deficit. Josh Hubbard, the leading scorer, as is almost always actually, he was not. I beg your pardon. Among starters, he was. Jaden Epps, the leading scorer, 23 points. Josh Hubbard had 22. And Mississippi State falls to 3-6 in the SEC. They're 11-11 overall. Ole Miss had a game on Saturday night in Nashville. They were down 8 at the half, 31-23. A much better second half for Ole Miss. Nearly doubled their first half output, scored 45, outscored Vanderbilt by 5, but Malik Dia's prayer of a 3 off of a tip out as the buzzer expired was a little short. And Vanderbilt escaped at home with a 71-68 win. Ole Miss one game above 500. They are 11-10. 3-5 now in the SEC. Ole Miss got 16 from Malik Dia and 16 from A.J. Storr. The only other player in double figures was Ilyas Kamerdine. He scored 14 points. The 4 starters not named Ilyas Kamerdine, that would be Augusto Casilla, James Scott, Eduardo Klafke, and Travis Perry. Those 4, they combined for 5 points. Not a recipe for a win. Southern Miss snapped a 5-game losing skid on Saturday with a 73-65 home win over James Madison. Golden Eagles evened their overall mark at 12-12. They evened their Sun Belt record at 6-6, led by Tylik Weeks, 28 points on 7 of 13 shooting. 14 of his 28 came from the free throw line. You may not be following golf closely yet. Maybe it's not that time of year for you. But one of the more famous venues on tour was the host site this weekend. That is the Torrey Pines Golf Club in San Diego. No one else had a chance to beat Justin Rose at Torrey Pines, and so his final challenge was to take on Tiger Woods. Not on the course, in terms of his scoring record. Rose won that battle too. sailed to a 2-under-70 in his final round for a 7-shot victory in the Farmers Insurance Open, breaking the 72-hole tournament record that was set by Tiger Woods in 1999. He finished 23 under par for the tournament. Now the PGA Tour heads to Lance's favorite tournament, the WM, the loudest and rowdiest event on the PGA Tour in Scottsdale. They get after it, Lance.
They start hooting and hollering, don't they?
Oh, man, do they hoot and holler, among a whole lot of other things. That is your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort, your home for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. 7 o'clock hour on the way. The news is next.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Coffee, conversations, and clarity. What a great way to start your Mississippi day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Standing on a corner, looking for his babe. Standing on a corner, looking for his babe. Lord have mercy, can't I see? Great mom coming back to me.
Good to be with you on this Monday morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Just a heads up, coming up about 15 minutes from right now, Bill Cork will join us. He is the executive director at the Mississippi Development Authority. We will talk economic development with Bill. Some of the kind of looking back at 2025, which was a record-setting year by billions and billions and billions of dollars. You know, if you eclipse a previous mark, you want to just barely eclipse it so that you can eclipse it again and celebrate. Bill and the MDA team, and a lot of folks involved with that, they have put a goal out there that is going to be really difficult to replicate on an annual basis. Look forward, as always, to our visit with Bill Cork coming up. Also, Keith Hayward from Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. Northeast services customers in Benton, Lafayette, Marshall, Pontotoc, and Union counties. And so we will talk with him about the power restoration process, what's going on, who has been turned on at this point, what are the numbers in the remaining counties in terms of people that are still in the dark, what's the holdup, is it moving fast enough, how many people have they got out? We'll try to tackle all of the questions for Keith Hayward coming up at just after 8 o'clock. And then, of course, JT Mitchell will be along from the SuperTalk Mississippi News team. Mornings is presented every day by Community Bank. We're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. Dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. You want to talk about the scum of the earth for a second, Lance?
No, of course.
There are a lot of categories in which you could create a scum of the earth category. I think price gougers in times of crisis or disaster, pretty close to the top of the list. Maybe you have seen it, maybe you have not. If you have been on Facebook, you certainly have seen it. Unfortunately, reportedly, some of the gas stations in and around the North Mississippi area, and I would think not the ones, hear me clearly, not the ones that we talked with Philip Chambly about last week that are part of the Convenience Store Association. Not them. But some independently owned gas stations were accused online of really shady dealings, especially with some college students that didn't have much of a leg to stand on in terms of negotiation. Had to pay with cash. Didn't seem to be a real accurate pricing center. And kind of walked away with like a pack of nabs and some bonbons and a Gatorade and a purple drink, and it was like $90. No good. No good. There are a lot of highly reputable, highly capable out-of-state companies that have made their way into Mississippi. Tishomingo County, Tippah County, Benton County, Marshall County, DeSoto, Coahoma, Tunica, Lafayette, Sunflower, Washington, Issaquena, Sharkey. I know I've left some out. And they're coming in there saying, hey, let me help you get rid of your trees. Let me help you rebuild that front porch. And maybe they give you a written estimate, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just agree to a price. Sometimes when you get a written estimate, price is super fair, and you let them do the work, and you feel really, really good about it. But not all of the companies that are coming from other states are operating that way. I spoke to somebody yesterday, has an office building, and a parking lot that needs to be cleaned up. You know, trees around, you got some limbs down. Not a super major job, not a really big parking lot. I know the parking lot. Got 4 quotes. One of them was $2,000. One of them was $3,800. One of them was $6,200, and one of them was $7,800. How's there going to be a $5,000 differential? Nearly a $6,000 differential in quotes to cut up and remove a few limbs and clean up a parking lot.
Well, they're doing it the old school way. They're like hand saws and stuff.
I mean, maybe they brought Puxatawny Phil himself out and going to let him gnaw through every branch and haul them off, and it's going to take him a month. My guess is that's not the case. My guess is you got somebody that's a little unscrupulous who's looking to make a fast buck.
Yeah, and let's hope that what comes around goes around for those as well.
If you are listening this morning and you have neighbors, especially older neighbors, I'm going to stereotype for a second, and if I'm off on this, just forgive me. Okay? Just forgive me. Consider this to be Richard's sexist and Richard's ageist and Richard's blah, whatever. I don't care. But do it anyway for me. If you have a female neighbor that perhaps lives alone or is a single mother, and you see that someone is working in her yard, would you please check on her to make sure that she's not being taken advantage of? If you have an older neighbor and you see that someone is removing debris for their yard, doing repairs to their house, cutting trees, would you please, and you can blame it on me, check with them and make sure that they're not being taken advantage of? If you have a neighbor that you fancy a city slicker that might not know what it should cost or what they should be spending because it's not really the arena in which they operate, would you please check in with them and make sure that they are not being taken advantage of? So paint me with whatever isms you want to, and probably there are others that need to be checked on. I'm just thinking out loud here. And there are some people that probably are not as equipped to know what is a fair price and what is not a fair price. And just be a good neighbor and say, hey, I'm not trying to get in your business. Just want to make sure you're not being taken advantage of. And if you find out that they are being taken advantage of, I'm going to be honest, I don't know exactly who to tell you to call, but I'm going to give you 3 names. And I'm going to say between the 3 names and the 3 offices, we'll get it figured out. And maybe we can throw some of these scoundrels in jail. The Attorney General's office, Lynn Fitch's office, reach out. You feel like you're being taken advantage of by an out-of-state or an in-state company in the wake of Winter Storm Fern, call the Attorney General's office. Call Shad White's office, the state auditor. That may not be the right spot, but he seems to throw people in jail for scamming folks all the time. So call Shad White's office. Call Michael Watson's office, the Secretary of State's office. If it's not the right place, they'll direct you to the right spot. And maybe there's somewhere else you should call. I don't know. Ask for help. Call us. We'll figure it out, and we'll get you in the right place. Maybe even call Bill Cork. He'll help. Bill Cork's going to join us next with MDA. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
You're waking up to what matters. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
On the road in California is in a bank in the middle of Beverly Hills in somebody else's name. So if you're dreaming about California, it don't matter at all where you played before. California's a brand new game.
7 o'clock hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. We are fortunate to have Mr. Bill Cork in studio this morning. He's the executive director of the Mississippi Development Authority. He is recruiting businesses, working in step with the governor's office to make sure that those businesses make sense in Mississippi. And it has been a busy 18 months, 24 months, certainly busy last 12 months. Bill, good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. The last time you and I were on the radio together, it was at the Neshoba County Fair, and it was a lot warmer than it is now.
You know what I might give for some of that warmth right about now? With zero complaints about dust or mud or red dirt or anything else. What a time it has been. Let's start here. This is not necessarily economic development related. What role does MDA play in disaster recovery?
It's a good question, Richard. MDA has the Disaster Recovery Office for the state that deals with long-term disaster recovery after major storms. Right now, we're actively engaged in the tornado activity from Rolling Fork and some of the southwest Mississippi tornadoes. Those are ongoing long-term plays. What MDA does is work with the Department of Housing and Urban Development to to assess long-term unmet needs after these storms are over.
Okay.
We'll go back into the communities. Chuck Bierman at MDA and his team will go into these communities. They will assess and survey what they call the unmet needs. What didn't FEMA and MEMA and all the immediate disaster folks take care of? Things like long-term sustainability of our utility systems, water systems, sewer systems. Housing is a huge part of that, particularly low and moderate income housing. So if folks were displaced or didn't have insurance and were unable to get their housing situation resolved, these programs are designed to help with that long-term recovery. So we won't be going into the storm area here for another couple months probably. Let it get through the initial response phase, and then we'll start our long-term recovery phase.
There are a lot of people that, when going through something like this, they want all the answers, they want all the resources, and they want them right now. It doesn't always work like that. There is immediate response, but then, I mean, you talk about this program through MDA that is a much longer term play, and some of the reimbursement that the state gets from the federal government, that the local governments get from the state or the federal government, they take a while.
That's correct, Richard. And I think as taxpayers, we want to make sure we all have a fast and effective response, but we also want to just get a big check and start wasting money. So there has to be a need that has to be demonstrated. And one of the things I would encourage community leaders, homeowners, and others to do is, I know they're going through a tremendous a tragic time right now as they try to recover their personal lives and their communities, but take really good notes. I know you talked about this earlier about how do you document the expenses that you have so you can get reimbursed. But that's the only way it will really work effectively is if the community leaders and the individual homeowners really take notes and keep good records, take pictures with your phone of all the damage that's occurring. All that helps when it comes to accessing those recovery resources.
2025 was a banner year for the state of Mississippi in terms of economic development. It was a banner year for the entire team in your office. Is there any possible way that you can replicate 2025 and 2026?
Yes. We'll beat 2025 probably in 2026.
Really?
Which was a record year for us, $21.5 billion in capital investment, about 3,000 jobs last year alone, which dwarfed all the prior years. And we're off to a really good start. 2026, we already announced a $20 billion project in South Haven with XAI.
So that's going on 26's ledger, not 25's?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's a 2026 number. Total, since Tate Reeves got elected, we've announced over $66 billion in capital investment and almost 24,000 jobs. So it's been an amazing run, and it just continues. These projects, Richard, are just getting bigger and bigger and more energy intensive. And with all of the compute demand that's required, but also in advanced manufacturing, these projects are just lots of robotics and technology in them. They're just really remarkable what we're seeing.
You reached out to me a few weeks ago. I had a guest that mentioned that inevitably energy costs were going to go up for consumers based on some of these data centers that are going in because of the massive energy needs. You told me that at least for most of the projects in Mississippi, that is not a concern for you, at least not right now, because of the way that some of these proposals have been put together, the projects have been written. Can you explain that in a little more detail?
Sure. Well, every data center is not the same. And every company that operates in this space is not the same. So when people talk about data centers generally, I always ask, well, which one are you talking about? And then there's a special answer for each particular customer. But let me just pick a couple of the big ones which will get attention. So, for example, sure. AWS. When AWS announced in Madison and in Warren County just last year, their expansion, that they're buying all that power and generation directly through Entergy. So they're writing a big check to develop new power generation, solar, a variety of other different technologies to serve their need. And Entergy is an investor-owned utility that's regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. So, Richard, if your listeners are in Entergy's territory, how would they know whether or not their rates are going up based on this data center? Well, in regulated utility territory, they must take a rate case to the Public Service Commission. That's the only way they can get their rates increased as a result of an industrial development. And the Public Service Commission has received no such rate case. There's nothing planned. And if you listen to what Haley Fasackerly, the CEO of Entergy Mississippi, has done in multiple venues. He said, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to raise your rates due to these things. In fact, they're investing, I think they invested over $100 million on transmission upgrades out of their own pocket to try to help stabilize the grid and make sure we could accommodate this new development. So XAI, they're bringing their own generation with them. They located this data center cluster in South Tennessee and North Mississippi around an old power plant site, and published reports indicate that Elon Musk has bought over 1.9 gigawatts of new Korean-manufactured generators to be placed in an old Duke power plant site in South Haven. That's got to go through permitting. It's going to have to go through a whole process to get that done. That's all publicly regulated, and the public will have a chance to weigh in. So those are some examples on the power side where, that's just being resolved. And the way you'll know is because if we see a public utility rate case, then we'll all be able to stand in line outside the Public Service Commission and complain about our rates going up. But that hasn't happened.
Well, one thing that Haley Fasackerly pointed out, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, he said, there is a good chance that your energy costs are going to go up because the cost of energy is going up in some areas and the demand is going up, but it is not directly tied to these data center projects. And so there is a difference in your electric bill goes up a little bit because power costs more, and there's a new data center going in one county over or in the county in which you live, and their needs are causing your bill to get higher.
That's right, Richard. I mean, just like any other utility, costs go up. Growth happens. You have to build new infrastructure. You have aging infrastructure that's aging out that has to be replaced. All that gets put into the cost model, and sometimes the rates have to increase in order to accommodate just our ordinary course of doing business. Of course, there's been inflation. There's been volatile natural gas prices. All those things implicate your bill. And so the question is, what are these data centers causing? That's really the fundamental question, and right now we're not seeing those impacts.
Elon Musk is probably the most famous technology entrepreneur that is out there. His companies have transformed the way that the world works in a lot of ways. What has it been like working with XAI and maybe some of the other Elon Musk affiliated companies? Well, the one thing that comes to my mind is insane speed. These are almost inhuman people, the way they do business. I've been working with CEOs of companies and dealing with economic development projects for over 30 years, and I have never in my career experienced the kind of insane speed that these guys work at. It's sort of like fire, ready, aim. They kind of just, it's a bias for action that I've never really seen, and maybe when you've got a checkbook as big as Elon Musk, that's possible. You can take some risks like that. So that's the biggest difference. But the other thing is they have a tremendous heart, really. In fact, I was on the phone yesterday with the company representatives in South Haven. Elon Musk is donating over 500 generators to support the recovery effort, and I watched them. Pictures were sent to me yesterday of them loading up the trucks in Atlanta, ready to ship 500 Generac generators to Tippah County. They'll be arriving before noon today. So wow. These are good stewards, I think, not only of what they're trying to do technologically, but they recognize that the community partnership is important as well. Bill Cork, Executive Director with MDA, will continue the conversation on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV.
From the Sebro.com.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
When they ask where you heard it, you tell them.
I know you heard it right here.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Bill Cork is my guest with the Mississippi Development Authority. He's the executive director there. Travels a lot and has had a really, really busy stretch with new economic development coming to the state of Mississippi. We got a question on the ceasefire text line. They were asking about a specific location, and I don't know if you can answer this, but maybe opens a conversation more generally. I was curious if there was a new company that might be on the horizon for the old Levi's plant in Gluckstadt. I don't know if you can answer that specifically, but there are lots of places across the state where you've got former plants or former major companies that are no longer in existence and space is open. How does that factor into plans for companies that might be looking at coming in?
Super high demand for Mississippi existing buildings. So if you've got an empty building anywhere in the state of any kind of size, proximate to infrastructure like interstate highways, utilities, they're in high demand. I know that we have shown the Levi's building multiple times. Joey Deason up in Madison County is facilitating a lot of those site visits, but our team has been involved in a number of projects there looking at that site. Do we have anything to announce yet? Nope. But anything like that, gets just a lot of interest.
Bill, you have worked extensively with Link in the Golden Triangle, the Development Link partnership there. We are seeing more regional partnerships that have been announced. There's one in the general area of where I live with Lafayette, Panola, Tate, and Yalobusha counties. There's been a lot of talk about the three Gulf Coast counties coming together and trying to work together to create a regional partnership and maybe even some other areas of the state. How is that going?
I think regionalization is a good thing as long as it's a coalition of the willing, and that you've got a mission that's clearly identified that keeps everybody aligned. Especially in the rural areas where you don't have a lot of financial resources. I'm a fan of regionalization because it allows you to pool your resource and act bigger than any one individual could actually act in the market. And what I mean by that is, hiring talent like a Joe Max Higgins is expensive. The travel you need to do is expensive. The product development and developing the infrastructure is expensive. So in areas where you're resource constrained, finding partners that are willing to work together to get big things done, I think, is helpful. Where you've got a lot of existing resources, it's probably a little bit more challenging to defend a regionalization play just because you already got a lot of interest, money, people. It makes it more challenging. So, and that's one of the reasons why I think the coast is really not pulled together a regional organization. You got about 12 different municipal entities down there, 3 airports, multiple ports. All of them are well-resourced, asset-based, and they've got a day job to keep all that running. So to try to regionalize down there makes it a little bit more difficult just because there's already a lot of financial incentive to take care of your own.
You said coalition of the willing, and that's an interesting way to phrase it, probably an important way to phrase it. We almost always, when we visit, get questions about, hey, what about Southwest Mississippi? What about the Delta? Those are areas that, at least on the surface, could benefit from a major economic development project that brings in jobs. What do you say about that, and how does that factor into that coalition of the willing, as you used the phrase you used just a moment ago?
Well, I think it's an understandable question. I think most average citizens would like to know what's going on in their community and why they're not seeing some of the development that other areas of the states are seeing. And I get that. Worked in rural communities almost my entire career and understand the interest there in trying to see how something could work. I think the proper question to be asking is, what can we be doing as a community to make sure we can win and position ourselves to win in this market? Not why didn't I get, but what are we doing to position? And that's the question that when people turn that inward and start to look at asking the questions in their community of what might be preventing them from winning projects, that you begin to start to have the revelations about what needs to happen to win projects. Look, I wish I was a wizard that had a magic wand and could just tap any county in the state and say, you're going to get a data center, you're going to get a big distribution center, or you're going to get an advanced manufacturer. But that's not how it works. I mean, you have to have the product in play, and then companies have to have a demand for that product. It's a free market, and the companies decide where they go. So I think fundamentally what I've been trying to do and what Governor Reeves has really advocated for is for communities to mobilize around the idea of economic development, to educate themselves on what it takes to win, and then put a plan in place to begin to advance their community agenda around whatever that objective may be.
I don't know that controversy is the right word, but there was at least a difference of opinion as it pertains to the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund. There is money that is allocated that I guess this is related to BP oil spill money from years ago. And the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund committee or council generally decides or has recommendations on where those dollars go. They work in conjunction with you. MDA then makes a recommendation to the legislature about how those funds should be distributed. Some interesting recommendations that came from your office this year on what should be done with that money, that it should be focused on some bigger projects, some regional projects, and maybe not as many smaller projects. There was some pushback from some of the representation on the coast about that recommendation. Where does that stand?
Well, it stands right now. It's with the legislature. Okay. I sent a 109-page document to them recommending what should happen with the Gulf Coast Restoration Funds. By the way, they haven't appropriated any of those dollars for the last couple of years, so it's been accruing. There's like $65 million in that pot of money right now. And there's an opportunity when you have that money to do some really big things. You know, if you're only getting it in small increments and you try to spend it all every year, you're limited on what you can do. The truth of the matter, Richard, is that the projects and the process that works today have worked just fine as far as it goes. The projects that are being nominated through the portal, evaluated by MDA, reviewed by the Gulf Coast Restoration Advisory Board, and then ultimately comes to the executive director for a final recommendation to the legislature, they're all good projects. They're all represent the needs of the communities. But when you take a look at the entire portfolio of projects this year, two things stood out. Number one is we didn't really see anything transformational. And by that I mean really... I
was wondering if you were going to use that word, transformational.
Well, and it deserves a definition because I think the governor's been very clear about that. What he wants to see are the kinds of investments that will create and attract new industry that brings in new employment opportunities at wages above the local county average wages. So we see a lot of maintenance projects and a lot of sidewalk projects and fixing the air conditioner at City Hall or something. Those aren't the kind of projects that are actually going to help you move the needle on creating new and important jobs for the citizens of the coast. Some of those projects that came through did that, and there was a few of those that we actually tapped to recommend to be approved. But at the end of the day, the process is simple, Richard. I make a recommendation, and the legislature and the governor can choose to either wipe their nose with it or take it. Okay? I have zero power to compel anybody to do anything. If anybody watched Schoolhouse Rock, they know how a bill becomes a law, and this money has to go through the appropriations process, become a bill signed by the governor. And then once that's signed, MDA executes it faithfully. There shouldn't be any controversy around these ideas. Because at the end of the day, the legislature gets to decide with the governor what gets spent.
I suppose it is worth mentioning that your position is one that is appointed by the governor, and so the recommendations that you are making are generally in line with the policies that he's trying to implement, right?
That's correct. I mean, I think the governor and I have a pretty good relationship, and I've worked with him, almost on a daily basis doing economic development. I got a good handle on what I think he's looking for. I just articulated his position on transformational projects, and I'm reiterating that to the legislature. So they can pick a fight with me, but there's a guy that lives in a little white house down the street from MDA that they might want to have a conversation with.
In our last few minutes, and we'll wrap this up on the other side of the break, the legislative session is now a month old, or almost a month old, for 2026, meaning there are only 2 months left, absent any special sessions. Hopefully that's not the case, but we'll wait and see on that. What are you asking of the legislature this year?
Well, we have a pretty big agenda that was outlined fairly clearly in the governor's executive budget request, and they really focus around energy, Richard. This issue of energy is critically important to making sure that we have an industrial development future for the state of Mississippi. It's almost a 1-to-1 correlation in GDP growth with energy growth. And so the governor is really trying to push on all cylinders here to make sure we have an energy strategy that's consistent with his power play initiative that he announced last May. So $100 million for advanced purchase and deposits on major transmission, substation, switchgear that'll help us advance economic development around energy. $20 million request for site development support to help us get a jump on getting these industrial parks utility served, and a $3 million venture fund to help us work on new technology ventures and to become a thought leader in the energy space. That's the big asks this year of the legislature, in addition to our traditional refills and basically a level top line budget for the agency. But we're out there pushing those issues. We think we have broad support for those, and we're eager to see the legislature act on them.
I was going to say, at this point, what sort of feedback have you gotten from the legislature?
So far, so good, but all kinds of mischief is still possible, Richard.
Lot still to do. A couple of minutes left with Bill Cork on the other side of this timeout. As we wrap up the 7 o'clock hour, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass
Super Talk Mississippi.
You heard it here first.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Here comes the blues.
Well, I done got old. I can't do a thing.
Bill Cork is my guest. He is the executive director with the Mississippi Development Authority. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. I should say now, in case we run out of time at the end, thank you for your time. Always appreciate you coming in and catching us up on some of what is going on. We got a question on the C Spire text line. You can jump in at 601-879-4395. Somebody was curious about your views on the timber industry in Mississippi.
Yes, well, it's absolutely a core natural resource throughout the state, and we have an overabundance of timber resources, and it's undersubscribed in terms of its market potential. But the vast majority of our early industrial wins were in the forestry product space. We've had some very significant announcements, over a couple of $1 billion of announcements in new mills, dimensional lumber, pellets, and a number of other things to try to make that happen. We see right now in our pipeline a variety of sustainable or renewable fuels projects which are trying to take woody biomass and convert it to, say, things like aviation fuel. And those are multi-billion-dollar projects that are still in our pipeline and working their way through the system today. So it's absolutely critical. We look at all of our natural resources which as a competitive advantage for us. And it's not only just forest products, but we're exploring right now the huge lithium Smackover formation that's right below us. For use for potential critical minerals mining and processing.
Where is that specifically?
Well, it runs really all the way from the northwest of the Mississippi Delta all the way down through the panhandle of Florida and goes all the way back across to the northwest through Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and into the Four Corners region of Texas. So we have a lot of undisclosed and underappreciated assets here that MDA is working pretty diligently to try to exploit responsibly for our economic development future.
Do lithium deposits kind of coincide with natural gas deposits?
Well, in this particular case, we see them kind of traffic along sort of the salt brine domes that we have underneath the earth here. Very complicated geologic stuff, which I am not an expert in, but we do.
I am testing the depth of your knowledge right now.
I stick with the spreadsheets, Richard. I'm not sure I'm an expert in this, but we just held a summit at the Westin Hotel about a week and a half ago on critical minerals, and we had almost 80 experts throughout the state convene with our state office of energy, which is also housed at MDA. The Energy and Natural Resources Division of MDA is kind of responsible for helping to mobilize around this issue, and so it's a new and emerging field, but we are bringing the experts in to see what we can do to make it work for Mississippi.
When we've talked about major economic development projects that have a B in them, a billion in them, it feels like we always end up with data center conversation and advanced manufacturing conversation. Are there other industries that either have not yet found a foothold in Mississippi or that you're focused on, maybe specifically in defense technology, that would make sense, that would create jobs and perhaps could create some sort of a hub in Mississippi that doesn't currently exist?
We have we have a really good relationship and sort of a founding partnership with a group called the Mississippi Enterprise for Technology. And this group is organized our aerospace and defense group Sorry, Richard, battling a little bronchitis here this morning I'm dealing with.
I would hand you a water if I was right next to you, so my apologies for that.
Anyway, we've mobilized around this area. Of course, aerospace and defense is a really huge cluster for us. But one of the vertical markets in the aerospace and defense cluster we're pursuing right now actively is what we call AUKUS, which is Australia, UK, United States Partnership, which has two major pillars. One of those is in submarine development, and the other is in critical technologies in the defense space. So this three-party treaty that we're a part of is allowing us to really do some very interesting international partnerships. And we've had the UK in here, we've had Australia in here to visit. I went to Australia with a team to the Indio-Pac, which is a major maritime and shipbuilding conference last fall. And so these are some of the things that are happening behind the scenes to mobilize our blue economy around things that are national priorities for the current administration. And so that's definitely one area that we see a lot of growth. MSAT, this Mississippi Enterprise for Technology, has started with the support of MDA, a group called the Aerospace and Defense Association of Mississippi.
Hold on a second. Take a second to clear your throat. Let me reset. We're visiting with Bill Cork. He's the executive director at the Mississippi Development Authority. Kind of wrapping up a long conversation with him about where we are and where as Mississippi we are going.
Yeah, so we have this new alliance called the Aerospace and Defense Association of Mississippi, ADAM. A couple of hundred members now that we've mobilized around the state of companies that are existing in Mississippi and that are friendly to Mississippi, along with our educational and governmental institutions, to begin to rethink how do we shape the future of the aerospace and defense cluster in Mississippi. So that's one area. Another area, Richard, which is we just touched on, which is critical minerals. We are in partnership right now with the Department of Commerce the U.S. Department of Commerce to look at some of these projects that the U.S. Department of Commerce is bringing in the critical mineral space, things like zinc, chromium, and even nuclear processing. So there's a whole host of things going on behind the scenes to help position us nationally that we're trying to exploit.
Outstanding news. Bill, always appreciate your time. Appreciate you kind of giving us a peek behind the curtain on how things are working at MDA, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you, Richard. Good to see you.
Bill Cork, Executive Director of the Mississippi Development Authority. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. Keith Hayward from Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association will join us coming up to start the 8 o'clock hour.
Check this out. What can be offered to you?
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Information.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
I try to call you, but on the midnight lights I realize why twice you ran away.
Welcome again, Mornings with Richard Cross, 8 o'clock hour. Thanks for being with us. We're presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Keith Hayward is the general manager and CEO at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. He and his team have been very, very busy for the last 8-9 days trying to restore power in not only Lafayette County, but in Benton, Marshall, Pontotoc, and Union County. They've got customers, members that reside there as well. Keith, good morning. Thanks again for your time.
Morning, Richard. Good to see some sunshine today, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Not only sunshine, but some warmer temperatures this week as well, which hopefully is going to be helpful. Let's jump in and start with numbers. You've got between 30 and 31,000 members across that multi-county footprint that I was just talking about. It appears, based on your outage maps, that you're in the neighborhood of 10,000 people who are still without power. Kind of give us an update on the numbers and what that means right now.
Yeah, Richard. So in Lafayette County, which is our largest county with about a little over 25,500 customers, we got 8,000 out still. Union County, with nearly 3,000 customers over there, we got close to 1,400 still out. Marshall County, we've got a large number of the people in Marshall County out. A lot of that due to the Holly Springs issue that we got fixed yesterday. So we've got 800 in Marshall County and about 500 in Pontotoc of our close to 1,500 customers there. We got a large contingency in Union County. Really thought that was going to be a little easier to pick up because I heard that wasn't quite as much icing on the eastern side. We sent a large number of people over there to a lot of our Florida crews that came in to try to get a lot of that back on quickly, but it's been very, very slow go.
I don't know if you know this or not, but people want power and they want it now. If they don't have it, patience is hard in a time like this. In terms of progress, are you pleased with the progress that you're making and the pace that it's happening, or is that not something that you're pleased with how it's gone?
Well, I've still got over 10,000 customers out. I can't tell you that 8 days later I'm pleased with any of this, but it's what we were dealt at the beginning of this storm with basically an F3 tornado hit every bit of our system. I think we are making good progress. We have the largest contingency in here of any of our sister co-ops. After I met with them, we've got nearly 400 outside crews in here with the help we're getting from communities and the people we have locally that are helping with dozers and track hoes and tractors pulling us in and out. We have a lot of 4x4 and 6x6 equipment at Northeast Power because we're used to dealing with these hills and mud, but a lot of our contractors and neighboring systems, they come in here with two-wheel drive, so it's just a very tedious process. We're making very good progress. A lot of this extensive damage was hard, so it's taken some of the larger crews quite a bit of time to get some of the main infrastructure up, and our hope is as they, it's kind of like you got them scattered out, but eventually they'll start concentrating and, hitting large areas at a time. But that is just now starting to happen as we're starting to roll back on areas that we got back on and trying to get the taps up and the subdivisions and things of that nature. So we are making really good progress, but nobody can be happy that we've still got 10,000 people out.
Yeah. What is the balance between working where you have clusters of people, like a subdivision in the way that you mentioned a second ago, versus people that are more in rural areas where maybe there's only one house on a property or there are a handful of houses? What is the challenge there in trying to get a bunch of people online at once versus, hey, the folks where there are only 5 houses over here, they need power too? How does that work in terms of the pecking order?
Well, it's a numbers game. We got to try to get as much on as we can, as quick as we can. Some of these subdivisions, people don't really realize where they might have fed from. Some of the older subdivisions, we've got one right in downtown Oxford that people have been, really upset that we haven't gotten them back on. But there's a line that feeds cross country, and we were trying to get some of the track equipment and stuff in there because of the problem to get back in there and to get it quicker. So you got other subdivisions that you could work right off the side of the road and can get those people back on a lot quicker while you're trying to get things in to make that restoration go. That particular, we weren't able to get the equipment in, so the guys are in there climbing that stuff and pulling it up and trying to get that restored. So a lot of people don't understand exactly how that feeds. So a lot of that depends on that, and we don't micromanage the guys out there that much. I mean, they're given a circuit, they're given an area. They know what they can get on as quick as they can. They know where everything is, and they have to try to make the decisions out in the field. We got 60, 70 individual crews out there, and we can't micromanage those people from inside this office. So a lot of times when people call, they get frustrated because we don't know when the time frame is, but I can't just keep calling those people out in the field and bugging them to ask them about this tap. So we do a lot of that at night. We do that a lot at breakfast in the morning to kind of figure out where they are and what they're seeing.
How do you decide where a Northeast crew goes versus where a contract crew that is from the outside goes?
So when you have a force of this, we break up our crews. You need somebody that knows how the lines feed, where the substations are and everything, because we have to ground everything. So even before we send a right-of-way crew, we have people that have called, we want to go clear this line out. Well, it's going to be a while before we get there. We got right-of-way crews that are getting in front of our crews, but we have to go and make it safe for them before they can go to work. So we break up all of our crews and send a man that knows the system with a 20-man workforce and with just one of our guys. So that's kind of how we have to do that. We don't have any individual crews that are Northeast Power crews out there working anymore.
In the way that you might just in a normal time where you weren't in disaster recovery.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you have a thunderstorm come through. It's going to be a 36 or 48-hour event. Our guys are out there working just as hard, and we have other people. The staking engineers, and other people that can go and direct that. But all of our people that know our system are working with crew. Some of them are managing 5 and 6 crews out in an area. Get them on the line. This is where it feeds around here, and you go to work. The people we have coming in, once you show them where the power is coming from, then they can start heading down the line and follow the line out and get everything that they need restored.
Keith, people want to be optimistic. I think there are probably some that heard you say with some of the older neighborhoods, specifically in Oxford, when you and I visited, I guess it was Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe Wednesday of last week, you said it may be 10 to 14 days before the power's back on. And I think most people heard that and we're like, well, surely in a week or, 5 or 6 days we're going to have power. So kind of where we started, 10,000, give or take, customers still without power. What is it going to look like 2 days from now at the end of this week in terms of that number being whittled down?
I'm still optimistic, especially with the weather coming in. Warmer weather, sunshine helps everybody. They're not having to deal with gloves and cold hands and frigid temperatures. I think we're close to making a lot. So a lot of these numbers are like Old Taylor Road, which is totally devastated. We had to completely rebuild Old Taylor Road. We had to completely rebuild College Hill out around Terra and those areas out in there. Those are about to get completed. Now those people are hooking up those large subdivision areas. So these numbers are going to start coming down rather quickly. Same thing in Union County. We're starting to get some progress over there to get the large lines on. We are struggling on Highway 30 coming back toward the Philadelphia community. We got 30 poles down on the 3-phase on Highway 30 coming back toward Oxford. Highway 30, as you know, was shut down for a large period of time.
Right. A
lot of timber in that area. It's the proximity to the substations and, quite honestly, the amount of timber in the area that on the lines that feed you. We can only clear 30 feet of right-of-way, and these trees are falling way out. But I will say, as far as pole numbers, you've heard me say that we aren't seeing a whole lot of broken poles. We've got over 35,000 poles out there. We've only changed out 140 so far. We've got over 100 that we know about that are still broken that we haven't changed out. A lot of those are going to be on these individual taps that people know about, that we've cut their taps off, because we got to get back and get that one house on and all. And those are going to be the last ones we get on. If you got, your neighbors are on, and one thing we do, we try to get as much on in the area so neighbors can help neighbors. If you know somebody that doesn't have power because their transformer pole is laying on the ground, help those people out, because it will be a little bit before we can get back to it.
I know you've got a lot on your plate. Can you hang with me just for a couple of more minutes through the break?
Yes, I'm as long as you need.
All right, sounds good. A couple more things I want to ask you about as we visit with Keith Hayward. He's the general manager and CEO at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. About 30,500 customers on the Northeast system. Currently 10,000 still without power as we continue to work to rebuild in the wake of Winter Storm Fern. We're back with you right after this on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
The monitor switch lets you hear
breaking news. Super Talk, Mississippi.
We are back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Keith Hayward is my guest. He's the general manager and CEO at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. I'm going to mention something, Keith. You maybe get mad at me for this, and I apologize in advance if you do. But you've been very public about what has been going on personally with you. You have been fighting very serious cancer for the last year. I want to say that I am inspired and encouraged by the fight that you have put up against this awful disease. I know it's something. There you go. He's got his Fight Cancer shirt on right now. Keith told me last week when we visited, he had a chemo treatment. I know he's got to make a trip to MD Anderson for some tests. So, man, Godspeed to you in your fight with this awful disease. And a lot of people really encouraged by the way you fought it and the way you've continued to work and try to take care of your customers as well.
Thank you, Richard.
My wife tells me sometimes I use analogies that don't make sense or I go too far with them. I was thinking during the break about Dave Ramsey. And he's got this concept called the debt snowball. And it's like if you got a bunch of debts, you pay off the smallest one first, and you generate a little momentum, and then you're able to take the money that you were throwing at that debt and you add it to the next debt, and you continue to work that way. I'm curious if that is applicable here. As you get a system online, are you able to take the resources in terms of people and crews and start kind of adding to them so that it feels like there's momentum and this thing kind of turns into a snowball?
Yeah, I mean, to try to get the workforce that we have in here, it takes a little bit of time. I mean, we were pretty prepared for what we would think would be a normal ice storm from what we had seen. Of course, by 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, and then by the time we got in, and it just continued to keep on and on and on, and it was like a war zone around here. We immediately started making plans, calling our caterer, calling all the people to start building those forces up. So we started very quickly with nearly 300 people, and now we're up to nearly 450. That takes a little bit of time for logistics. We had fueling issues that we had to get the fueling stations. I want to shout out to Bradley Robinson, who let us use Oxford High School. We told him for feeding. I don't know if he knew that there were going to be 2 portable tank systems sat down in the middle of the parking lot at Oxford High School. I was out there this morning for breakfast, and both, if you're familiar with Oxford High School, they've got very large parking lots on both sides. They're all filled with trucks and tractor trailers and pole trucks, and some of them are parked up on the curb. We're going to have to do a little yard repair for him, I think. But, getting all that in place to get the full force going by Tuesday with over 400 people was a feat, and it takes everybody behind the scene. I mentioned all that in one of my videos, and somebody said I was doing a sales pitch. I said, no, I'm not doing a sales pitch, but the people behind the scene need a little recognition. Everybody loves the linemen, right? They're coming out there to get their power on, but the people behind the scenes need a little bit of recognition for that too. And everybody needs to understand this is not just an isolated ice storm. It went all the way from Texas all the way up to Virginia, and Tennessee got hit hard. And so we are competing with other crews and the type of crews that we need. I mean, we don't need just a certain, people say, well, the city of Oxford released a bunch of crews. We talked to those people. They didn't quite have the equipment we need. It was going to cost, it's a lot easier in the city where they run around on all the paved roads and things of that nature. So we only need things that are going to help us and not hinder us. But we have a good workforce. I've been doing this a long time. I know it's frustrating for our members. They think we're not paying attention to them. We've left them behind. As we can start rolling the masses around, it will start really snowballing. It's a snowball effect. It's going to be slow at first until you get that main infrastructure of it. I'll admit, I think we haven't had the pole damage, but the tree damage and the number of lines down and the amount of time it's taken to restore some of these lines is something I haven't seen, even from working several hurricanes and ice storms around the country that I've gone in and run crews and things of that nature. But we are in a pretty good shape to try after this week. I think we're going to have a pretty good success rate. I'm not saying everybody's going to be on in the next 7 days. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's going to be down to those isolated cases I was talking about with transformers, 5 spans down in the back of the woods or something like that.
I'm glad you mentioned the city of Oxford. I think you have a good working relationship with the city utility department, and the mayor mentioned that they had released some crews, and maybe you had been able to use some of those. But your point is not all line crews are created equal in terms of capability and equipment. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, good. Yeah. So, if you got to have, find another dozer or something to get them in and out of places, that can be a problem. And, it's a logistical, who are we going to put with them where they can? I'm not going to tell you we couldn't have another few crews, and we got 25 more coming in. We're starting to focus on the services and these we got a lot of people that have had wire torn off their houses, that had to get electricians to fix those things, and now they're just sitting there, everybody around them has power. So we're making a concerted effort to try to get people in to start rolling back behind our construction crews as the power has been restored, to help those individuals in those isolated cases. I'm not talking about the ones that got the transformer pole laying in the yard, but the ones that just had the service drops off their house.
Two things I want to ask you about as we finish up. One, I know there are a lot of people that are using electricians to perhaps wire a generator to their panel. I know you got to be really, really careful when you do that. Is that something that, from a Northeast perspective, you're okay with as long as it's done the right way? How does that work?
That is the exact reason why we have to ground every single line before we send somebody out there. It's not that we're worried that our feeds are coming down those lines. It's the fact that if somebody hooks a generator up wrong, doesn't trip their breaker, and their meter's still in and their wire's still connected, they send 7,200 volts back out on that power line. And over the years, we have had people get killed on power lines from generators, and that's what we are trying to make sure doesn't happen. So if you got an electrician that's doing it, they should know better. If not, we're going to do everything we can to protect ourselves. I mean, my main goal in this is to get everybody's power back on, but to also send all these linemen and construction workers back home to their families, wherever they're from, either here or abroad, just like they came. We've only had a couple of accidents that have been through trees or somebody slipped, broke. We had 2 broken legs is all we've had. I don't get reports of cut hands and things of that nature, but unfortunately, in Northeast Mississippi, a contractor did get electrocuted, had his arm amputated the other day. So we have had, a few issues in the state. But you're going to have that. That's the nature of the business. It's very, very dangerous. And, we're not out there. This is not an easy product to get out there in the field, and it takes a lot to get everything to make sure everybody's going to be safe.
And then, Keith, last thing for you. I know power is the first priority, but we are in such a connected age that people rely heavily on their internet connections as well. Your program has been called Spark. It's one of the programs. I know a number of co-ops across the state and across the country were heavily involved in getting fiber internet to homes. It's been wildly successful. A lot of people without internet. Where are you on that? Where does that fall in terms of priority and pecking order?
We've got a large number of crews in here to take care of our fiber. The fiber can lay on the ground and work, but if it's laying across the road, once a bunch of cars go across it, it mashes it, and we put a bunch of protection around it, and it still doesn't work. So every once in a while, we're going to lose that fiber connection. So we are having a little bit of problems with that. But we do have crews that are staying on top of that, coming right in behind power. We have a lot of service drops, but I have a lot of people that said, I got my generator running, I got my Spark on, and I'm watching TV. We're all good, So it was actually running during, when it's all laying on the ground.
Right.
We had connectivity to all our substations. We did have a main line cable go out the other day down in Taylor. We had to go in and do an emergency patch to get it back up. But we're trying to keep that connectivity on and really keeping up. So you need to call in. We put that number out. It's a separate number from the power. But if you get power and you don't have fiber, call in and report it. We've got service crews that are running around getting those connected really, really quickly out there. And we've even got customers that are wanting us to hook them up new, and that's a totally different crew that we have contractor in here. We're actually doing new installs to some customers to try to get them some connectivity once they have power.
You obviously represent Northeast Power, but there are other co-ops across North Mississippi and the Delta, and I don't know how much communication you've had with your colleagues in those areas. Are they dealing with some of the exact same issues that you're dealing with? So that kind of your message today is applicable to other people, even if they're not Northeast customers?
Yes, we're all very, very similar. I know that I know Tallahatchie Valley right next to us, they've been very, very hard hit. They've been trying to get their numbers built back up. Tim up in Tippa Electric, I think. And if you just look at that ice load, and if you looked at the final report, I mean, we were predicted at the end, it showed that we had 1.2 inches of ice right through this strip going all the way to it kind of went a diagonal across there depending on where the freeze line was. And,
right.
If you were sitting there watching that as it was coming through, they kept saying it was going to move south of us, and the warm weather hadn't built in, and then all of a sudden it came in, and that's where that main swath is, and those are the systems that I've been talking to the most that are really, really devastated.
Yeah.
But, they got them in the Delta and everywhere.
Keith, we're out of time. I appreciate your time. Safe travels to you and safety to all your men.
From the SuperTalk
Talk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Let's get on with the show.
Check it out. Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome again. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Before we visit with JT Mitchell, I want to remind you about my friends at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. They have been in the automobile business for over 100 years, and they're not going anywhere. Great repair shop in case you have had any issues during the winter weather with your vehicle. They can help you get it back rolling and on the road. If you're looking for a new or previously owned vehicle, great selection on the on lot right now, and the best financing rates that you will find anywhere. A lot of you have found out the value of four-wheel drive during these last few days. I will tell you that from my experience, the F-150 has been outstanding. Have not had any issues anywhere I've been. Check them out, talk to them, let them know you heard about them right here on Mornings with Richard Cross. That's Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota, Highway 6 West in Oxford, online at belkford.net and oxfordtoyota.com. Happy to welcome in my buddy, my friend, my pal, JT Mitchell. He's the news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team, and nothing like getting some breaking news on Monday morning when the executive director of MDA rolls in and tells us about a donation that Elon Musk and his companies are making in the form of generators to Tippah County.
Well, first off, good to see you, pal.
You as well.
I don't know if that was a compliment or insult, but I'm glad to be with you, Richard.
Friend, buddy, pal. That wasn't like calling you chief or coach.
Like
you're my guy.
Yeah, you're my guy as well, man. When I don't know if you ever feel like this, but sometimes when people around your age call you buddy, it's like, don't call me buddy. That seems like it could be an insult. Now, like a fatherly figure calling me buddy, love that. But it's good to see you, buddy.
Pal is a term of endearment.
Okay, pal. Getting back to the news, when I saw Bill before he came in here for your show, and he told me that, I was like, wow, that's crazy, because 500 generators has to equal somewhere around $4 million worth. And I know Elon Musk has so much money and
we think
more.
These are big ones, not small ones?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm thinking it is 500 generators in the millions. It's going to go to Tippah County, and the reason it's going to go to Tippah County, and I know y'all did not have time to really expound on this part, is because Tippah County, hours after the storm moved out, we got a press release from the Tippah Electric Power Association that pretty much said, we're sorry. We had a massive line issue that happened. It received catastrophic damage, and because of it, we will not be able to restore power in the coming days. It's going to be a weeks-long process. And so as of this morning, Tippah still has, I think, 8,317 outages, and that's only down a few from a week ago. And so these generators will arrive in Tippah County by noon today.
So Tippah Electric Power Association, primarily Tippah County, that's where their biggest customer base is. They've got across all of the area they serve, which includes parts of Alcorn, Benton, Hardeman into Tennessee, Tippah, and Union counties, almost 14,000 customers, over 8,000 of them still currently affected with power outages. So those 500 generators whether they're the big boys that JT's talking about or they're more residential type generators that are going to be distributed to residents, going to be huge. 500 of them. I think Bill said they were being loaded on a truck in Atlanta this morning, and we're expected to be in Tippah County lunchtime, maybe early afternoon today, and available for residents there.
Yes, that's good news. I mean, it's a silver lining. Just watching the damage reports come in from this storm is just so disheartening. I know you guys have been talking about it pretty much all morning, and we've all been talking about it. It's hard to believe it was a week ago that the storm moved out. Over the weekend, we got word that the death toll is rising. It's up to 23 statewide, and, that number could go up. And 51 counties out of 82 counties are reporting damage. This was a crazy storm, the worst since 1994.
May I interject here? A message that the mayor of Oxford, Robin Tannehill, asked me to put out, and this does not apply just to Oxford or Lafayette County. This applies to the entire affected area. She said, you've got shelters, you've got warming places that are in place. She understands, I think we all understand that nobody really wants to go to a shelter, but those are there for a reason. And there was a 61-year-old man who died over the weekend in Lafayette County from hypothermia. When he finally received medical attention and was at the hospital, they found that his core body temperature was 71 degrees. When you get into a hypothermic state, you kind of lose your senses a little bit, and maybe you don't know you're as cold as you are. Please be willing to reach out. Do not let transportation be an issue, whether you call 911 or the hospital directly or the police department or the sheriff's department or a neighbor. There are people that are not only willing but ready and able to help. Please do not continue to stay in a home or a place that does not have heat. If you don't have food, there are resources. You just got to ask. People want to help.
And I appreciate Mayor Tannehill saying that. And that's not just Oxford, Lafayette. That is statewide.
That's all over.
That is all over, because right now there are 93 warming centers open in 51 counties. And because I get it, you may not want to get on icy roads and say, hey, I can actually wait out this. I have a bunch of blankets. Don't do that. You can call the Highway Patrol. It is star HP, and they will come pick you up and take you to the shelter, no cost. Yeah. Just be safe, because we had another cold front this past weekend. I understand that temperatures are climbing today. We could see some highs in the 50s statewide, but it's cold out there. And especially if you're one of these 60,000 Mississippians that still don't have power, please, please, please be safe.
The business at the state capitol is ongoing. We are right at a month into the 2026 legislative session, which means a third of the way through at this point, and a pretty significant deadline, JT, coming up here in a day or two.
Hey, does it feel like a month that they've been there? What's it feel like to you?
Not at all. But and it may feel like 6 months to you at this point because you're in it every single day. But with all that has gone on in the Delta and North Mississippi in the last week, it's like we've just kind of lost sight of the fact that, the legislature's in session.
I agree.
And bills are still dropping, and committees are meeting, and stuff's being debated, and back and forth between the House and the Senate. It's and the clock is ticking for them.
It is.
This is only a 3-month session this year, in year 3 of this legislative cycle.
And so the deadline you mentioned is tomorrow, and it's the deadline for committees to report general bills and constitutional amendments out of their originating chamber, which in layman's term, that means if a House bill was introduced and it was referred to a House committee, it must come out of that committee by tomorrow. It's a big deadline. It's honestly the first true big deadline. This is where rubber really starts to meet the road. And you're right about everything that has happened. Lawmakers, they took off last Monday. They managed to get back there on Tuesday. Of course, it was difficult for some members to get in. And I give my team complete credit because you're covering all of this stuff is coming to you at once, but you still have the session to cover. Because these are bills, we're kind of the liaisons between people who can't study the bill text all day long. We try to deliver it in an easy-to-read, easy-to-listen-to format. And so we've been covering it like a blanket. And so please stay with us. Tomorrow is the deadline for committees to report those bills. SuperTalk.fm or on over 50 talk and music stations statewide.
JT, one of the things that's been talked about for a number of years in the legislature are con laws or certificate of need laws. And there was a bill that made it to the governor's desk last year. He ultimately vetoed that bill because of some specific legal language and an ongoing legal case. The House and the Senate have cleaned up that language, have unanimously passed a certificate of need bill, headed back to the governor's desk. Is this going to be signed into law this time?
It will be. I do think so. I think that they handled Reeves's concern. Now, what the governor's concern was, it stemmed from a legal dispute between Oceans Healthcare, St. Dominic Hospital. I won't get into the weeds of it. It's at supertalk.fm, but they handled that. He sent the veto message. They addressed it. They passed it. They sent it back. Unanimous support. I expect him to sign it.
Yeah, unanimous support rarely happens, so good news on that front. And the whole idea behind certificate of need legislation is you want to make it better for smaller rural hospitals and communities that need services in their area, right?
That's exactly correct.
Okay. A concert coming to Vaughn Hemingway Stadium. We'll talk about that next with JT Mitchell. It's Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass.
This is Mornings with Richard Cross.
Let's do it.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us one last time on this Monday morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. JT Mitchell is the news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. They will be covering that deadline that we talked about just a moment ago in the legislature this week, all of the bills that are continuing to be debated, plus all of the other news in the state of Mississippi, including a pretty major concert that was announced this morning. Post Malone and Jelly Roll are headed to Vaughn Hemingway Stadium on, June 5th?
Yep.
Friday, June 5th, as part of the Large Heine Stadium Tour.
Can we say that word on the radio?
Well, I'm sure somebody will, but I'm going to pass this morning.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Hey,
big concert stadium tour happening with Post Malone and Jelly Roll, two of the biggest stars in the country/crossover music world.
They are. The Big Behind Stadium Tour, Part 2, coming to Oxford, Mississippi. Tickets will go on sale a week from tomorrow. And people in this state absolutely love Jelly Roll. I run into more people who are listening to Jelly Roll as of recent than I have ever. And Jelly Roll's good. Do not get me wrong. Props to him. He won another Grammy last night, his third. Post Malone, of course, has had more of a global impact for about 10, 11 years now. And so them teaming up did really, really well in 2025. They said, we're going to do a little encore. Part of that encore will be in Oxford. Are you going to go?
I sent this to my wife this morning, and she said, I need good tickets for that.
What are good tickets? Like box seats?
Oh, I don't know.
Or does she want to be like in the pit?
No, probably somewhere in between.
Okay. Y'all get a third, and I'll tag along. I'll be a third wheel.
Right. I also have a 15-year-old daughter that I'm sure will be making plans to attend as well. But
y'all went to Morgan Wallen the last time they had this big of a concert at Ole Miss, right?
Yes, that was for Ava Montgomery's 13th birthday. We went on Sunday night. It was a disappointing finish.
Oh, yeah, that was the night it got canceled, right?
Yes,
the night the lights went out in Oxford. Okay, so that's going to be Friday, June 5th.
It had been Morgan Wallen's lights that went out that night in Oxford.
Yeah, what happened? He got sick, he said?
He got something.
He got something. He was sick of some sort of disease, self-induced or not. And then he came back, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, all worked out. But Jelly Roll and Post Malone, hopefully neither will get sick. I've already had a lot of people texting me as well. Should be a big deal.
Yeah. Super Bowl week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's because of everything that's been going on or a general with the NFL. I don't feel like there's been as much buzz. And again, maybe it was because we were disconnected from the world much of last week. But Santa Clara, California.
That's right. Santa Clara, California. What, over 1,800 miles from Mississippi? And we have 15 Mississippi connections. That's one of my favorite parts every year about the Super Bowl. I get to go through the rosters and find out who either played here or is from here. And it's a long list, to no surprise. Charles Cross, starting left tackle for Seattle, from Laurel, played at Mississippi State. And then Ben Brown, the backup center for the Patriots. Great interview with him on Sports Talk Mississippi on Friday. I encourage everybody to go check that out. 3 coaches. Leslie Frazier, he went to Alcorn State. He's the assistant head coach for the Seahawks. Of course, Chris Partridge, all of you Ole Miss fans know him. He is now the linebackers coach in Seattle. And then former Jackson State linebacker Milton Patterson is a defensive assistant. So I just named 5. There's 10 more connections. If you want to know them, you got to go to supertalk.fm.
JT's got it all laid out for you, so it will be easy. And I know you are excited about another season of American Idol.
I'm so excited. Tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Last week, 8 months ago, a Mississippian won American Idol.
And then he sang the national anthem at the national championship game.
Amazing. Don't know if I've ever heard a national anthem sung that beautifully. And it was within minutes of last week's premiere that another Mississippian, Daniel Stallworth of Moss Point, got on stage, got a golden ticket. Small world enough, just like Jamal Roberts, he also teaches elementary school. So
how about that?
We could have another elementary school teacher from Mississippi win American Idol if all goes as planned.
And I assure you, JT will keep you up to date with every detail related to that as the show progresses.
Hey, I'll text you tonight, Richard, so you stay up to date as well.
Yeah. Thanks, JT.
All right, Richard.
Have a great week. Lance, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. See you tomorrow.
To all of you across the state of Mississippi, we wish you a wonderful Monday. Be patient, be kind to your neighbors. Try to do something to help somebody else if the opportunity presents itself. Maybe you go out and look for that opportunity. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.